And I'm Keon.
And this is Inevitable, that podcast where we melt someone's brain with the sonic screwdriver, because this week we watched Ariel,
Written by Jose Molina.
directed by Alan Croker.
And aired on November 15th, 2002.
So the show, I'm going to make a joke, and then no one's going to get it, and then I'm going to explain the joke, but we're very lucky the show didn't end on this episode. And anyway, the explanation for the joke is that Alan Croker has the distinction of directing the series finale of three Star Trek series: Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise. He directed the series finales for all three of those. So,
well, hey, Croker. I mean, the show, I guess tends to croak once he's done with it. I'm just kidding.
Nice. Wow. He directed a lot of episodes of Chuck, too. Chuck was a good show. Oh, he's still working. Wow, he directed episodes of the show Greenleaf.
I don't even know what that is.
I only know what it is because, is this the show? I'm sure it is. I met a guy who is in this show, actually. Yeah. Yeah, so I know a guy who's like, personally, like we're friends, a guy who has like a recurring role on Greenleaf.
Oh. Wow, that's weird.
Anyway, yeah, okay. Anyway, that's besides the point.
Well, I guess your fun, in quotes, fact for a writer this week, Jose Molina, is that speaking of the neck beard look, which we were discussing a few weeks ago, Jose Molina kind of has that look. He also directed a lot of very prominent shows. Not directed, wrote and produced. Wrote for and
I
produced
didn't believe you when you said that, first about Jose Molina's neckbeard look, so I looked him up and yeah. Yeah.
And he also wrote this week's episode, Ariel, which is why we bring him up.
I like how we've semi-unintentionally have like fallen into this weird routine on Inevitable of like giving fun facts about the writer and director of the episode.
It's not even a semi thing. We just have. It's just become an unspoken rule until now, I guess. Until you just spoke it. Thanks. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I've spoken it into existence. Well, I meant the semi was supposed to be attached to the like unconsciously because we didn't consciously go, oh, every week let's say some fun facts.
Yeah, there was always. I mean, for this show at least, there's always been something to say, like whether they worked with Joss Whedon in the past or whether they created the Tick or something weird like that.
Yeah, they've all got something interesting going on, and on top of that, we haven't really ever done an American show on any of our podcasts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Hey, go ahead.
Continue. No, continue.
I was gonna say like that. That's true. Like in the past, we'd get writers where we'd be like, oh yeah, that person wrote that one episode of Doctor Who randomly in like 1993.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly the point I was going to make, too, is that, like, yeah, we haven't encountered any of these writers or directors before, and normally it's like, again, like, there only seems to be 10 people in Britain who ever work on television. Not actually, like, I'm obviously being facetious and hyperbolic, but... Anyway, so Ariel... as I was saying before we started recording, another episode title on Firefly that just gives you like zero information as to what the episode's going to be about. Absolutely no like conception of what the plot of this is going to be going in. Like compared to like Out of Gas or Janestown or Our Mrs. Reynolds or The Train Job, very obvious what those are all about. Although Keon aptly pointed out before we started recording as well that The Train Job was only really like 5 minutes of the Train Job episode.
Mm-hmm. And we actually joked about this off recording a couple weeks ago, but we didn't ever actually say it on recording, which is like, the episode's Safe. What is that title referring to? Like, why is it called Safe?
Because they're all safe. I don't know.
They're not though.
I know we had this exact identical conversation that week after recording.
Yeah. Well, whatever. Yeah, this one gives you no indication as to what it's about because Ariel is just the name of a planet that the name of the planet the episode takes place on, or maybe it was the city. Was it the entire planet or was it the city? I forget.
I thought it was the planet.
Maybe it's one of those city-wide planets like Coruscant from Star Wars.
Looking at the wiki, it says Ariel is the name of the planet.
Gotcha. It does actually. Now that I say that, it does kind of have like a Coruscant-ish look about it. Sort of this high-rise, you know.
It also kind of feels like it was just filmed like in LA. They were like stepped outside this the Doctor Who thing where they like stepped outside and were like, this is perfect. This road right next to the studio is perfect.
Well, it's like, CG'd up a little bit, you know.
Yeah, I'm thinking specifically about like the one scene that didn't have any CG because they were actually on the streets of the city, which was like the scene where Jane was getting the uniforms from the guy, and he's just like clearly standing next to like a completely normal LA high-rise building where they've like erected a sci-fi prop in front of it, and that's not a bad thing, you know. I want to be clear that I'm not like making fun of the show for this. I'm really more just laughing along at like the things they had to do to save budget because it's hard to make a science fiction television show on a TV budget.
Mm-hmm. And I was actually that brings up something that I was actually thinking about earlier this week, which is that like a lot of Firefly takes place on Serenity. Like,
yeah,
like a ton of it, more than half easily. And it's just like, you know, they're on this budget, obviously, like every TV show is. So when you have a set like this that you kind of create and it's basically the best one of the show and can be used again and again and again, you use it again and again and again.
Yeah, I mean, when you put that much money into a set, you find as many ways to reuse it as possible, right?
Mm-hmm. And that actually just put into perspective what I was talking about last week, where Nathan Fillion was kind of, he was, you know, he didn't say this explicitly. It seemed like it kind of brought a tear to his eye when he was watching them like strike that set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Although actually, come to think of it, he never said whether it was the Serenity set, so it could have just been like some random one.
Just some random alien planet. just some like set of the week kind of thing. Like it's the hospital set from Ariel. Like, oh my god, they're tearing down the hospital.
Anyway, should we just jump into it?
Yeah, I might as well just jump into it. So the episode opens. They're going to Ariel, and they conveniently do like last week they wrote out what's
Zoe.
her name? Zoe. This week they conveniently write out both Shepherd Book and Inara, and in fact Shepherd Book doesn't even appear in this episode. They write him off screen. They're just like, oh yeah, the Shepherd like stopped by on this at the Abbey to like go do religious stuff. Like at least Inara leaves from Serenity and goes like, oh yeah, you know, companions are all required to get like medical checkups once a year by the Alliance to, you know, and she doesn't really explain like why that is.
Renewing
but,
her
you know,
license or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And then it's actually pretty funny because they weren't actually supposed to pull off a job or anything on Ariel. They were basically just going for Inara. And when she comes back, she's like, what the But what prompts them to pull off the job that the episode is about is that River, like they're all basically just hanging out in the sort of the common area that we've seen before, and River just picks up a massive knife and attempts to murder Jane.
She slices him across the chest and he goes, ah! He screams in pain.
As you would, you know, if you were just...
Yeah, well, yeah.
So Jane actually dies. He's not in the show anymore. No, I'm kidding.
Actually, like, this episode at multiple points makes you think that like Jane is getting written out in this episode.
That's interesting.
To me,
I
anyway.
obviously knew he wasn't because I'd watched the show before, and as little as I remember of it, I did remember that he doesn't like get written out here. So I wasn't even thinking that, but yeah, that's true.
Yeah, obviously I don't know, and I genuinely can't even remember if he shows up in Serenity or not, the movie, not the episode. So I honestly could not, remember if he was in there. So like throughout this episode, pretty often I was like, is he getting written out? Like, is he getting written out? Like, what's going on? And then like by the end of the episode, obviously he hasn't. So
I mean, he almost gets like written out of Serenity, literally, like literally shot out of Serenity, almost.
yeah, bringing back the darker side of Mal.
Yeah. But we have to get there first. So Simon is sort of fixing up Jane in the med bay. And Jane is obviously more pissed than he usually is at both Simon and River. But, Mal, I guess, to diffuse the situation, is basically defending. He's basically defending the both of them, Simon and River, telling Jane to calm down and such. And once Jane leaves, he kind of he gets serious with Simon, and he's like, "Look, man, like you got to keep her in check. We can't have people slashing other people around here."
Which, like, fair point. I mean, not only could you like die from that, but infection is a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this episode kind of answers more than any other the question I was about to ask, but like, what's the state of medicine in like the Firefly universe? It seems very stratified, right? Where it's like these facilities are the best of the best, but other, backwater planets don't really have much access to anything at all.
Yeah, they explicitly actually pretty much say that in this episode because they're getting just a little bit ahead of ourselves, which we'll get to in a second. They're going to steal some medicine from this hospital, and they're like, oh, but it feels wrong to steal medicine from the hospital, and Mal's like, oh, well, it's literally an alliance world. It'll be restocked within like 24 hours, and people in the Rim world like have no medicine, could really use all of that. So,
but it's not totally. They're not total benefactors, right? Because then Wash steps in at that line of like, steal from the rich, sell to the poor.
Yeah, it's Robin Hood, but you make a profit while you do it.
Yeah, exactly. It's Robin Hood skimming the fat off the top of his operation.
I always love the jokes like Robin Hood steals from the rich and gives to the poor, and then like 2 years later, like all the poor are the rich people now, and Robin Hood goes, wait a minute.
Damn it, damn it, damn it.
Anyway, yeah, so like I said, they're going to steal this medicine, and the reason why they do this is so Simon basically comes in because they're looking for a job. That they're on Ariel, a central planet, and they're like, oh, we need a job still though. And Simon says, well, you won't have to look for one because I've got one for you. And they're like, oh, what? And he's like, here's the job. And then this episode launches into, I don't want to use the word trope necessarily because this isn't really a trope, but like this episode out of every episode of Firefly so far is the most, I'm just going to use the word trope because I can't think of a better word, like fits the tropes of a heist movie or a heist film, like even more so than the train job.
Yeah, all the elements are there, right down to the like explaining the job and then doing the job.
Yeah, you have the setup where you have the planning phase, you see them acquire all the equipment, and then you see the heist. And obviously it goes badly wrong, but then they escape. Like this is the heist formula in an episode. Even Train Job was like what I expected to be the heist, but no, it's Ariel.
Yep. They even do the modern heist thing where they like, as they're explaining the plan, you're cutting forward to them like enacting it. I guess because Ocean's 11 and probably other, classic heist movies informed like society at large that like just explaining the plan and then doing it is not very exciting.
Well, they work it into this episode very well. Because you have Simon explaining the plan, and then you see them do it at this, like they get the equipment at the same time. They could have just done them one after the other, and then it would have been really boring and badly paced.
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant, because that's exactly what like the original 1960 Ocean's 11 does, right? Where they just like meet in this room, and they're like, "All right, here's the deal," and they explain the plan, and then you just see them pull it off. And then,
they explain the plot of the movie you're about to watch.
They just set some cameras up in the writer's room and slapped that onto part of the movie. No.
I mean, really, the like original Ocean's 11 does feel like they just like filmed Frank Sinatra and his like best buddies messing around in Vegas for a week, and then like assembled some like scrappy plot together, and we're like, oh, we need to film like 5 scenes of you guys explaining a couple things that they just kind of inserted at key moments to give the film a plot. But that's my criticism of Ocean's 11 notwithstanding. This episode does it a lot better.
So we should explain what the actual purpose of this heist is. So basically, Simon realizes that River is getting worse. So what he wants to do, since they're on Ariel and they have access to this, not access, but they're in the proximity of this like very high-tech medical facility, is he wants to use some scanning machine or something to take a scan of her brain and kind of see what's wrong.
Yeah, he's hoping that by getting this scan, he'll figure out exactly what the mysterious school actually did to River, and with the intention of hopefully, curing her. Because lest we forget that, like, that was actually the point of Simon escaping with River before the show started.
Yeah, it's kind of been on the back burner for a while, but that kind of is the overarching plot of the of this season, which is the only season. So basically, the overarching plot of Firefly.
Yeah.
So obviously Simon and River are wanted fugitives, so they can't just waltz into the hospital and use the machine. So basically they need to break in, and the payment, so Simon obviously he enlists, he's the client for this episode. He enlists the rest of the crew, and the payment is that as they pull off the job, they'll be able to have access to like the medicine that we were talking about before.
Yeah, and he really gets them to agree to this by basically telling them the street value of all these drugs.
Yeah.
And they're all like, ooh. They become the pharmaceutical industry in America for the past 50 years all of a sudden.
Yeah. They really embody and understand big pharma in this moment.
So they come up with this plan. Simon's actually got the whole thing mapped out already. Basically, they've got to steal a couple things to be able to get into the hospital, because he says like, oh, me and River, we're going to get in really easily. You guys, though, you guys are going to have the tough job. So they need to get uniforms for the hospital. They need to get some ID badges, and they need to get like a ship. And so to get the ship, they send Kaylee and Wash to like the scrapyard, where I guess somebody just decided to scrap an entire hospital ship.
Yeah, they have some explanation for why that's there, or something. Like it's like the hospital uses that junkyard for, I don't know.
He says the hospital contracts with that junkyard, and like big junkyard means big junk or something like that.
Yeah, and it's actually done in a like kind of a funny way, where it's like Wash and Kaylee are like looking around for spare parts and they can't find what they need, and then like Wash just turns a corner and there's just a full ship.
Yeah. Now obviously the ship doesn't work. They've got to fix it up.
Mm-hmm. Which, speaking of Wash, by the way, another episode where Wash is himself put on the back burner again.
Yeah, he gets to have like some real moments there for a second with Kaylee, and then he flies them into the hospital, and then he just vanishes for months. Not months. He vanishes for like the next couple of minutes of the episode, but like
he just leaves. He just takes off. He's like, all right, you guys just get your own ride out of there. I'm off.
Yeah, screw this, guys. he doesn't.
I don't get paid enough.
He doesn't do that. Yeah. Well, clearly that's what Jane is thinking.
Yeah, I forget how this is initially telegraphed, but like, going into the operation that Jane is about to turn in River and Simon. I think going in.
They don't tell you. You can guess though.
Yeah,
I think
he makes some oblique reference to like, what if we just turn them in? Like, and then it becomes clear later on when he actually contacts the guy. It's actually interesting. They make mention of this in the episode that Simon has like an untapped criminal mind. Like the plan probably would have gone. Well, we can't say for sure, but the plan seems like it would have gone perfectly if Jane hadn't messed everything up. And Simon is probably the least like. He's the least suspect. Like you wouldn't expect him to sort of come up with a plan like this, but he does, and it almost works flawlessly.
Yeah, it probably would have worked. Really, nothing was going wrong up until Jane messed it up.
Yep. Leave it to Jane.
Classic Jane.
It is actually interesting, though, that Jane is constantly the one who is criticizing Simon and, saying he doesn't belong with them and he shouldn't be around. Yet Simon seems to be better at Jane's job than Jane is.
It's that untapped criminal mind.
So basically, with all the equipment in stock, so to speak, they're able to infiltrate. And there's an entire funny sequence where like Simon is training Mal and Jane and Zoe on what to say.
Yeah, and they're all getting it except for Jane.
Yeah, it takes them a little while. They all get it except for Jane. And then, like, something funny happens with that, which we're about to get to.
Yeah, he's training them. It's like an explanation in case they ask why Simon and River are dead or, like, how they tried to save them.
Right, because we didn't actually mention this, but Jane and Mal and Zoe are playing the part of paramedics who are dropping off two corpses, in quotes, which are Simon and River at the morgue.
Mm-hmm. So Jane is just like he's just not getting at his lines, and he insists he'll be able to get it, and he's like writing it down on like a topical for now mask. He's like writing them on the inside of his mask, and Simon's like, "What are you doing?" Really? He's like, "Don't worry, I'll get it."
Yeah, they use some cheat sheets in this episode. Like Mal writes down all the names of the medicines that they're supposed to take on his hand. I think they ended up just taking everything, but yeah.
Yeah, they kind of just they do the thing where they like run their arm along the shell, and dump it all into the bag at the end.
Imagine you just hear like glass shattering throughout that entire sequence. At the end of the episode, they open the bag of medicine, and it's just debris. It's just dust and glass fiber and debris.
It's just a big indeterminate liquid composed of all of the medicine and then all the glass vials. That feels like when I was watching this, a la Train Job, I was just thinking like, oh, how is this gonna go wrong at the end? Like, how are they gonna end up not getting any of the stuff to take home to get money or to get paid? And I was a little bit surprised actually that they were able to get away with things to actually sell and get a profit from.
So they start the plan. They enter the hospital with the two supposed corpses. They're sort of on little trolley things. That's probably not the right medical term, but I don't know what it is. Gurneys, I guess, maybe.
The gurneys,
and then
probably.
Like they're all ready to like say their lines. They're on the edge of their seats to say the lines that they've spent the last however many hours trying to memorize. And the nurse or the doctor, whoever it is at the desk, is just like, all right, bring them in. No questions asked.
Yeah, and then Jane just like panic blurts out his line anyway, and the receptionist just looks at him like, I really don't care.
Yeah. What happens next?
So I actually thought for a second that like Jane blurting out that line was going to be how they got caught. Like Jane was so over prepared and anxious to say his line that he ironically gets them caught because of that, but that didn't end up happening.
No, he gets them caught because of greed, not stupidity or something like that. Well, it's not stupidity, it's just memorization, but yeah. And then they decide to make the weirdest like Scooby-Doo split they possibly could, which is that it's Jane who's going to be escorting Simon and River, and it's Mal and Zoe who are going to be getting the drugs. Yeah. Just
so they leave Jane behind.
Just
for
leave
some reason.
the guy who like hates Simon and River with Simon and River.
He's like, yeah, I'm just gonna sit here, and then Mal and Zoe leave, and like as soon as they leave, he stands up to leave the room.
Well, so I think it's at this point in the episode where they're walking through like this sort of weird like open surgery area. It's like an open plan office, but it's a hospital. It's like there's just open areas where people are undergoing like surgery and medical procedures.
Yeah, kind of weird.
Simon sees some guy obviously engaging in like very poor medical practice, and he's like, I gotta step in, like that guy's about to die. I think River actually is like somehow psychically sensing that the guy is about to die.
She can probably tell exactly what the doctor's about to give his patient and why that's wrong.
Mm-hmm. Jane doesn't want them to step in, but Simon does anyway. And he basically, he pulls off some like house-esque
That's exactly what I was thinking of when I was watching this, because I've watched a lot of House recently. I'm like, wow,
yeah,
it's House. He even has the berating of the subordinate doctor for getting it wrong.
And there's even like some off-screen random extra, technically not an extra because they have a line, but they're just like, this is unprecedented. What you've done has never been done in known medical history. And he's like, but his heart's beating.
Classic Simon. The House. Simon House.
And surprisingly, they don't get caught.
More like shockingly, they don't get caught. Jane is convinced they're going to get caught. But yeah, so he's taking them out the back exit because he claims that the plan has changed and they have to go out the back exit when that's obviously like where they're going to get caught by the Alliance. And while this is all going on, Mal and Zoe are running into issues of their own. With a doctor, I guess. So I had thought that like Mal, Zoe, and Wash's disguise and Jane's disguises were doctors, but I guess they're just like nurses or
Yeah,
paramedics or
so
something.
so Mal and Zoe and Jane were paramedics. Simon and River obviously were disguised as corpses at first, but then then the outfit that they put on was the doctor like costume, or though at least for Simon. I forget what River was actually transferred into or changed into rather.
Well, she was just in like a hospital gown.
Yeah,
She's a
actually,
patient, I
yeah. Now that
guess.
you mention it, wasn't I think Simon was maybe just in a hospital gown too, which is makes it doubly weird that he just kind of steps in and performs this medical procedure and then is just like, "That's how you do it," and then walks off.
I guess you don't, when a guy saves your patient's life, you don't ask too many questions.
But Mal and Zoe basically run into this guy who I think he's credited as Haughty Doctor. If I'm looking at, and just let me pull up the cast list here. Pompous Doctor. That's what it was.
Classic.
He's kind of getting
doctor.
in the way of them pulling off the rest of the job, so they just knock him out conveniently.
Well, Zoe tases him, but not really tases him. She uses the the paddles that they use to resuscitate people to shock him, which those paddles have enough voltage to start a heart, but don't forget it goes the other way too. They have enough voltage to stop a heart too. Like that man might be dead. We don't see him again the rest of the episode except when they get his badge to get into the medicine room.
Yeah, I think they just dump him in that room. Very easily could be dead. Jane kills someone in the course of this whole thing. And it looks like Simon does too until they confirm that he didn't. Have they already gone to the machine at this point? Have they already had that entire sequence? I want to say yes.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah.
Because the surgery is after they get the brain scan because Simon is like, I need to do some more investigating. We've still got 20 minutes. And Jane goes, no, plans change. You've got 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, what? And that's why they're even going through that room is because, again, they're going to the back door because Jane claims that the plan has changed.
Right. So we actually kind of skipped that. There's not too much to it. Simon just looks at some holographic diagrams and says they lobotomized the part of River's brain that keeps her emotions in check, which is the amygdala, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So she's basically feeling the full brunt of all her emotions at all times, and you as the audience kind of think that, okay, this has something to do with her latent psychic abilities, or not latent, but her the psychic abilities that she developed after going to the camp.
Yeah, it's not currently clear if and I think it's intentionally not clear. It's not clear if the surgery they performed on River was what gave her powers, her psychic powers, or was like an attempt to control them.
Right.
Obviously, they haven't even explicitly stated she has psychic powers, but the
episode does its best to remind you that she does.
Yeah.
Not only can she sense that the guy is about to die in the surgery room, but she can sense when the blue-gloved men appear and start killing people. There are also the screams of death and agony from above, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, but we're not there yet.
We also skipped a very short scene where Jane uses a panel on the wall to contact some Federation troopers, some Federation forces, revealing that Simon and River are with him.
And they get captured right after Simon saves that guy's life. And so Jane is like, right, okay, so how you want to play this? You want to just rough me up a bit and then let me go? And the guy's like, no, you're under arrest for aiding and abetting a criminal. He's like, hey, but I was supposed to get the reward. And the guy's like, you mean the reward that I'm getting for capturing Simon and River?
Yeah.
You mean
And
that
it's like,
reward?
what did Jane expect?
Yeah, like, is Jane really that dumb? I mean, I know in this episode, more so than any other one, they've kind of been playing up the, like, Jane's an idiot. You know, there's that line earlier when Simon's telling them all of the, like, medical things, and Jane says something like, well, if I had gone to school, I could have gone to school if I wanted to, but I didn't.
And maybe he's just trying to save face. But a few minutes after they get caught, Jane has a line, I don't know if you caught this, where it was like he was planning to get the money and then save Simon and River, and then they just leave. That's what he says. Who knows if he was lying or not, right?
Right. So now they're all captured. They're all captured, and they're talking with the guy, and Simon has this moment where he kind of steps up and he's like, yo, I'm not going to do what you want me to do until you answer my questions, because, clearly somebody more powerful than you wants us alive, and so you can't kill us, and so you're going to answer my questions if you want me to cooperate.
I think basically all they really do, though, is they try to transfer them into some other area while they wait for the the superiors to arrive. And, like, as they do this, these the two guards who are transporting them, like, just get absolutely wrecked by, like, bound prisoners. They have guns and armor, and they're, like, leading Jane and Simon and River, and they just lose. They're just completely helpless.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just pretty funny, honestly.
And while this is happening, Mal and Zoe are waiting at the ship, like, it's been 20 minutes past the rendezvous time. Like, where are they? Like, what's happened? So they call up Kaylee, and she's like, oh, yeah, getting some chatter, about some ducks. And they're like, that's code! Obviously, they've captured them. Like, seems like a pretty big leap, but I guess given the information at hand, probably the only leap you could make.
Yeah, maybe Mal or Zoe is familiar with the code words they're using. Who knows?
If only Shepard Book were here to tell us all about his secret criminal ways.
Yeah. Well, they go back in.
Yeah, they're getting directions from Kaylee. They have Kaylee pull up a schematic of the hospital and approximate, like, where they would probably be held. Mm-hmm. She's relaying that information to Wash, who's relaying it to Mal and Zoe.
And as all this is going on, Jane, Simon, and River are escaping, but at this point, the blue-gloved men, who, I, at this point in the show, had completely forgotten about, they show up. They start using a little sort of device. It looks like a little vape pen, basically. But, like, yeah. Or the sonic screwdriver from Doctor Who.
Well,
No,
I was just gonna say that they only do this because they I guess before you get too ahead of explaining what they're doing, I wanted to explain that they're doing this because, like, they learn that the captain and his men talked with Simon and River.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So anyway, continue.
Yeah, so they learn that, and they're like, oh, so you talked with them, huh? And he's just like, yeah, we didn't really get too much out of them, though. And then they activate this device, and it causes everyone in the room to just bleed from every orifice in their body.
Yeah, it just, like, melts their brain, basically.
Yeah.
Kind of gruesome. Well, very gruesome, actually. Really? I don't know why I said kind of gruesome.
Just a little bit,
It's only a little light gruesomeness for your television today.
Yeah, actually, now that we bring this up, for a 2002 TV show, this is pretty high up there. Like a network television show from 20 years ago.
In terms of what, gruesomeness?
Yeah, in terms of violence, I think.
Yeah, I mean it is. It is also TV. Was it? It was TV 14, right?
I don't know. I always forget that those TV ratings even exist.
Because nobody pays attention to them. Was Firefly TV 14? It's Parents Guide on IMDb. Yeah, it was TV 14. It was rated M in Australia. Yeah,
Australia is usually very strict with their ratings. What are those TV ratings? Like, what?
There's TV. I know 3 for sure, which is TV 7, TV 14, and then like TVMA.
Yeah, TVMA. Yeah.
I don't know if there's one below 7. So I think MA is just above 14. So.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, well, it was. They actually have it per episode here on IMDb. So this one was TV 14.
Okay, yeah. That tracks, given all the blood. Given all the blood and viscera we saw.
Well, they use IMDb's Ariel page uses like a very, it's just like a nondescript image of Jane for their image.
IMDb also like tends to pick the worst possible image for for everything. Like that's just what they're known for, you know.
It's part
Dang,
of.
wow, Out of Gas has a 9.3 on IMDb. Jeez.
This one has a 9.0 out of 10.
Wow. Yeah, like look at some of the other pictures. Like for Safe, they just like use the picture of Kaylee and Anara like in that store looking at the carvings. Like that was a 10-second scene in the episode, completely unrelated mostly to the main plot. Like Janestown, which is just a picture of Jane with a guy.
Well, okay, that one, all right. It's Jane's episode. So imagine if it was just like a random picture of Wash for Janestown.
Loving the picture for War Stories is just like a picture of Wash blindfolded.
Have we watched War Stories yet?
Not yet. Just can't wait to see what that episode's all about.
That might be Wash's time to shine, you know? Oh, it's next. That's next. I just looked at the episode list.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, the picture for Shindig is Kaylee in the dress with like the guy who asks her to dance. Oh no, that's actually Mal. That's Mal.
Yeah, I didn't recognize him with that suit on, huh?
Yeah, I didn't. You say that like it's a joke, but I didn't.
That would make sense, though.
This is like the most out of place one because it's a picture of Mal opening the shuttle bay doors for that guy who is like giving him the equipment, which like if you know nothing about the episode, it tells you nothing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Even if you know the episode, that's like such a non part of that scene. Like, oh, you could have picked, I don't know, any part of that scene where they've got a gun trained on Mal. Like, you have to pick the part of the scene where he's just opening the door. Like, okay.
Well, maybe we, and by we I mean you, because I'm not going to spend any time on this, should be the heroes that IMDb needs and replace these images with better ones. I actually don't know who would have the permission to do that on IMDb. Can any user just go in and edit images? I have no idea.
I don't know, and I really don't I don't care. I don't care enough to do it.
Anyway, Simon and River and Jane are escaping, and they just hear the screams of agony from up above, where the people are being killed by the blue-gloved men. River starts freaking out again because she can sense that the men are onto her, that they're here.
It's actually pretty funny because Jane's like, I want to go through this door and I can just shoot the 4 guards who are outside, and River's like, it won't matter. They're here. Okay, that was a Poltergeist reference. Anyway, And immediately after that, they hear screams from the other side of the door, and Jane goes, "Never mind, we'll go your way."
Mm-hmm. So it's a pretty tense sequence where they're kind of escaping. Made even more tense, I think, by the fact that the blue-gloved men are just walking after them, just totally self-sure that they're going to catch them without even running.
Yeah. And if it weren't for Mal and Zoe, they would have, because they reach a door and they shoot it. You know, they shoot it with, you know,
with guns.
The gun that Jane has. Well, they shoot it with the gun that Jane got from, you know, one of the Alliance guys, and it doesn't work, and he curses the gun and, you know, calls it Alliance crap. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to break the door by just banging on it with the gun, and eventually the lock gets shot out from the other side, and enter Mal and Zoe.
Yep.
And at this point, there's still a solid 6-7 minutes left in the episode, so I was like, oh man, like, what's gonna happen next? Because then it just cuts to like Inara coming back and being like, what the hell is going on here, Kaylee? She's like, oh, we just killed Simon and River, broke into a hospital, and stole a bunch of stuff.
Right. What happens next is probably my most vivid memory from watching this show. Like, this entire scene between Mal and Jane is like what I remembered most from Firefly. But I wanted to ask, did you see this coming? Like, let me actually clarify what I mean by that. Like, just in general, did you see like a confrontation of this nature between I almost said Zoe and Jane, between Mal and Jane? Like, did you kind of see that coming?
Not really, but in a way, it so Simon is like really playing up like how useful Jane was, and you know, how Jane really helped him out and did great and got them out, and like I really felt like he was playing it up like, you know, like, I know what you did. Like, so I figured like, oh, okay, so like maybe something will come of it. I didn't expect Mal to deck Jane on the head with a wrench. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because, yeah, at first he's playing it off like, you know, everything's cool, whatever. They pulled off the job. They're about to leave. And then once everyone else is sort of out of the cargo bay area, he just basically sucker punches Jane, essentially. And when Jane wakes up, he's in the airlock.
And Jane's like, what's going on? And then Mal kind of like points to the
it's like a little walkie-talkie
communicator on the ground. Yeah, like a little walkie-talkie.
And he's like, I know what you did, Jane. Know what you did.
Jane's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, you sold us out, Jane. And I know you sold us out. So how about you just come clean and make your death swift and quick?
Because what he's done is he's opened the airlock, and he's like, you know, as soon as we break atmosphere, you're gonna be dead, Jane. You're gonna go flying out that airlock.
And Jane's like, no, please, I've been nothing but loyal. I didn't betray you. And then Mal's like, you did betray me because you betrayed one of my crew, and if you betray one of us, you betray all of us.
No, he actually says, if you betray one of us, you betray me.
Yeah, same thing, except more vain.
Yeah, maybe. A real Three Musketeers situation, you know? All for one, one for all.
All for none, and none for all.
Well, Jane basically begs and pleads for his life.
And Mal looks like he's not going to give in. Mal looks like he's just going to be like, well, sucks to suck.
Shouldn't have got caught, Jane. At the last second, though, he shuts the door. And then, weirdly, this entire scene ends on a comedic note. I don't know why they did this, but the last thing
The
you
Blake 7 maneuver.
exactly the last thing you hear is Jane being like, "Can I come in now?" Just really pitifully.
Jane, before Mal closes the door, Jane also does ask, like, what are you going to tell the others? And Mal says, well, I don't know yet. And Jane's like, well, can you make something up? Like, don't tell him that I betrayed him. Just make up some way that I died.
Yeah, that was probably the most interesting part of the scene, actually, where it's like, it really, based on what we know about Jane and his past, which isn't much, but like, it really seems like being part of Serenity, as we mentioned in Janestown, has changed Jane. Like, it didn't really seem like before he joined the crew, he really cared much of what anyone thought of him. I mean, he even went as far as like just shooting his own man in the leg, as we saw in Out of Gas. But like, here he very clearly is like he doesn't want the rest of the crew to think bad of him.
Yeah, it's interesting. Jane also during this whole scene like begs Mal to, like, if he's gonna kill him, to shoot him in the face or shoot him in the chest. Face him and don't kill him by like throwing him out the airlock. But Mal doesn't give in to the taunting, to Jane's taunting.
No, he doesn't.
And that's the end of the episode.
It ends with one final little moment between Simon and River, where Simon, it looks like he's going. What does he say? He's like, River says like
it's time. The River says it's time to go to sleep again because she like didn't want to go to sleep to get into the hospital, and then Simon says, "No, River, it's time to wake up." Classic Joss Whedon line in there to end the episode.
Yep. And that's Ariel, maybe one of the most tense Firefly episodes.
I don't know why, but every time you say Ariel, I think of the font.
Oh, I think of the Little Mermaid.
Oh,
I don't think I ever even
we
actually.
are vastly different.
Yeah, I don't think I ever even actually watched the movie as a kid.
Really?
Yeah.
That I don't know why, but for some reason that surprises me. Have you seen it now?
No. I played Kingdom Hearts though, and that was one of the levels. So.
Okay, you got it.
Yeah.
You know.
I know the story in general. Yeah.
The superior method of consuming Disney movies through Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah. It actually might be, to be honest. Yeah, to be honest, I didn't really have much to say about this episode. It was fairly straightforward as far as I saw it.
I did too. Let me just. There was one thing I wanted to mention, and I'm just gonna pull up my notes here to make sure that I remember exactly what I was thinking when I saw it. Oh yeah, okay. So I just wanted to talk like briefly about the cinematography because we've talked a lot about how like in the first couple episodes we talked about how they intentionally lit like all of the Serenity Mal crew scenes like very orange and red brown kind of homey tones, and all the alliances in like blue, very cold kind of steel color. And it was just interesting in this episode, the hospital, is all blue. Ariel is very blue because, well, it's an alliance world, a core planet. But what was interesting was that the actual like room with the brain scanner was lit completely unlike the rest of the hospital in like very orange, warm tones. Kind of implying that it's sort of like a safe space within the hospital and is I don't know, necessary for the Simon and River storyline. Even through the visuals, we're learning that this room and this brain scan is very important. And we didn't mention that, when Simon says that line about like, it's time to wake up, it's because he's going to inject River with something that he believes is going to help cure her, that he figured out from the brain scan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I didn't notice that. And it's interesting, like, while they're in that room, I kept expecting, like, guards to bust in or something like that. But, yeah, given the color scheme there, maybe that was never, like, meant to be the case. Not meant to be the case, because obviously it wasn't. It wasn't written like that. But, like, maybe that was never, something to be worried about, right? Is, like, it's very clearly telegraphing to you that, like, nothing bad is going to happen in this room. Or something like that, at least. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so I think that was the only thing I wanted to mention, because I immediately noticed it when it popped up. It's like, oh, this is very orange. Yeah, very orange.
As for like Western tropes, Western topos, Western elements,
Topos.
yeah, well, we could go on a.
We forgot to do the Western tropes last week.
I know, yeah. Should we just do them here, because I actually don't think there were any this week. There might.
Yeah, this week was very heist trope.
Right. There actually might not have been last week either. Come to think of it.
Last week was Out of Gas. Well, Out of Gas was kind of like sort of a riff on the like, you and your caravan, your Oregon Trail caravan, and your horses all die, and you're stranded in the middle of nowhere with nowhere to go. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a riff on that if you want to get down to it, and that's been done in westerns before quite often. It doesn't even have to be like your horses died, like maybe they ran off or just, they're tired or they're sick, and then you end up stranded in your caravan somewhere in the middle of nowhere with nobody nearby to help and no way of contacting help.
Sure.
Yeah, so, I'm actually not super sure there were any tropes this week. Like I said, it's very heist trope this week more than Western trope. This pretty much is like the exact game plan if you're writing a heist movie or heist novel or anything. Like, this is the structure you follow. You get the team together, you plan it out, then you execute on the plan. Something goes wrong during the plan, you get saved by someone or something you set up earlier in the heist. That's how it goes.
Yeah, you improvise,
Ocean's 13 is still the best Ocean's movie.
No, it's not. It's the worst. I guess both of us, I think like probably 99% of people would say that it's Ocean's 11. Not the original one, but like, yeah, I actually think it's Ocean's 12.
We both have unpopular opinions.
Yeah.
Go check out our episode on the Ocean's trilogy over on Triple Play. For more.
Yeah, on that one,
Ocean's
I said my
discourse.
favorite was Ocean's 11, but in the meantime, I've rewatched 11 and 12 and changed my mind.
Well, you should rewatch 13 too to complete your reappraisal of the series.
Nah, I'm good. Yeah, rewatch 13 like years later after I rewatched the other ones. Sure. You've watched 8, right?
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, 8 was pretty good. I liked Ocean's 8.
I mean, I liked 8. I just thought it was weird how they like, spoilers for Ocean's 8, I suppose, just like kill off Danny Ocean like off screen, and then that becomes like a major plot point of the movie.
No, but they like at the end, don't they like kind of tease that he's not actually dead, if I remember correctly?
Barely. She like goes to his grave and says like some really cryptic line about like missing him, and was like, if you really kind of hackneyed it could be like maybe he's not actually dead.
Oh, well, whatever. Maybe I was just too hopeful or something. Because like when I walked out of that movie, I didn't actually walk out of there because I didn't see it in theaters. But like when I came out of that movie, I was like, so he's not dead, right?
Ocean's 8 also like. Also, the actual heist part of that movie, when they have to improvise, ends up committing like the cardinal sin of heist movies, which is that like their resolution to the plot is like literally a Deus Ex Machina, which is that that cameo character from the original trilogy just like shows up and saves them.
Yeah, but it was awesome though, so you can't fault them for the coolness factor, I guess.
Yeah, okay, the cameo was cool, but it's just like it's such a Deus Ex Machina. It's like, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, I guess I buy that, I suppose. Anyway, that's enough oceans discourse.
Imagine if
podcast.
Imagine if like at the end of this episode, at the end of Ariel, it was Jane and Simon and River like at that door, and they hear the blaster shot from the other side, and it opens, and it's Shepherd Book.
That instantly would have made this like the best episode of Firefly. Nothing could top not only the sheer absurdity of like Shepherd Book. Oh, even better, he's undone his hair, so he's got the full Einstein hairdo. And then he just says some, like badass one-liner like, "You were looking for salvation."
Yeah, exactly. Josh, give us a call.
Fox, Firefly Season 2 will work for free.
Yeah. God, I'm actually crying.
I know my cheeks hurt from laughing. Oh my god. Okay.
Anyway.
I suppose nothing we can say about the episode can top that, so maybe we should just move on to America's 10 actors.
Right. You only looked up one this week, right? So I'll start, I guess.
Yeah, I only looked up one.
Yeah, because I looked up two. So I looked up Jeff Ricketts, who plays one of the blue-gloved men. And I guess just as a semi-related aside here, his professional headshot on IMDb looks just about as sinister as his character in the episode does. So that's interesting. It looks like he actually started acting later in life. His first credit is from 1999 in the TV short for The Telltale Heart. Little Edgar Allan Poe for you. He was in Buffy. Yeah, he's been in a lot of TV shows for in the 2000s and 2010s. So he was in Charmed, VIP, CSI, Star Trek Enterprise, 24, Clock Stoppers. I don't know what that is, but it sounds cool. A lot of his roles actually are just like very nondescript. They're just like man, partner, bum, CIA agent B, general. Like, yeah.
Wasn't one of them like sleazy man or something?
Yeah, something like that. He looks like, well, I didn't go through many of his roles, but that's fine. But he played Othello in like some Shakespeare related thing in 2018, which is weird because like Othello is black and Jeff Ricketts is not. And that like
maybe they set the story in another time or something.
Maybe
isn't Othello like also like not technically black? He's like a Moor.
He's North African.
Maybe I'm misremembering. I really don't remember Othello very well. So
yeah, neither do I, to be honest. But like his skin color is definitely like a point in the story where it's like people.
Yeah. No, I remember that.
Yeah,
that much at least.
Anyway, yeah, that's Jeff Ricketts. Oh, he was in he was in Holes, the Disney adaptation of Holes.
Oh, great. Holes. Ooh, I never watched Holes. I never read Holes either.
Oh, really? That was like my. It was one of my favorite books as a kid. It's like actually a pretty good kids book.
Huh. Yeah. Yeah, some classes in our elementary school read Holes. My class didn't read Holes.
Yeah, I did, and then I read it. I read it like 2 or 3 more times on my own because I liked it that much.
Well, I looked up Agent McGinnis, portrayed by Blake Robbins. He's had quite a few acting credits. He started, not his first acting credit, but his first big acting credit was Law and Order, and then Firefly, and then Oz, which I know we've mentioned on Inevitable before, but not on this season. Charmed, Medium, The OC, 24, Private Practice, that that Grey's Anatomy spinoff we discovered.
Oh yeah.
Criminal Minds, Entourage. Oh, he was in Rubber?
Oh.
He played Cop Eric in Rubber.
My God, Rubber.
Weird. Anyway, CSI New York, NCIS, Sons of Anarchy, Legends, Law and Order, True Crime. That's like the big things that I recognized on his acting credits list. Oh, he was in a TV movie called The Bling Ring. He was in the TV Lifetime movie adaptation of the Bling Ring story, and not the probably superior Sofia Coppola Bling Ring.
Wow. Well, anyway, for the other...
Hey, I said probably superior, probably. I have never seen the Lifetime one, so I don't know.
There's like a 99.9% chance that that's right. Anyway, the other blue-gloved man was played by Dennis Cockrum, who has a very extensive acting career dating back to the 1980s. He was in Code of Silence. I'm just going through randomly here, just randomly saying some shows. He was in Uncle Buck, as I always do. Baby Talk. Oh, he was in Cheers. Dark Justice.
Nice.
A Boy Called Hate. Desperate Measures. Malibu CA, The Division, NYPD Blue. He was also in Star Trek Enterprise and CSI. The King of Queens. Malcolm in the Middle. NCIS. Just going through a couple more here. The Young and the Restless for 2 episodes. Law and Order LA.
Nice.
LA Noire, that video game. And yeah, just a bunch of other things that I didn't mention.
Nice. So some prolific guest stars this week. And that wraps up Ariel for this week. So if you would like to email us, you can reach us at thedoctor@decadentvegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, anger rants, love letters, your thoughts on Ariel. You can find us on YouTube at Decadent Vegetable. You can find us anywhere you find podcasts at Inevitable, a classic sci-fi podcast. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast and follow us on Twitter. And next time we're going to be watching War Stories. But until then, the end.